Out.
4 minutes.
All right. Welcome back to another episode here on Hacks and Hobbies. Today, I'm so excited to bring my really good friend, Vinnie Potestivo. Vinny, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast.
Junaid, it is an honor, a pleasure, not just to be here, but I am prepped. We are going to get creative, be creative, talk about process, talk about equipment. These are things that have guided me throughout my career. I can't wait to share what I know, and I can't wait for us to figure out what we can learn together.
I know, man, there's so much there. And we just got introduced to each other like almost a year ago. It's like haven't been a year yet. And I'm
Oh,
just
wow.
loving all the stuff that you've shared over the many meetings and the hangouts that we did. So thank you so much for
Yeah,
giving the
well,
opportunity to bring you on.
we have such a similar vocabulary. We have so many similar goals in video and
Yeah.
helping people maximize the perception of and the capabilities even of themselves. Look, I learned
Mhm.
in basic cable. I learned in 1998 cable how to tap into personal brands. And when I see what you're doing to up level the personal brand, it's
Mhm.
it's up leveling now. I get weird about time. It's
Sure.
up leveling now, but it's normalizing the future.
Oh,
If that makes sense. And like what you're helping people do today is making them stronger in the future.
oh my God, yeah.
Um, then and that's exponential, and that's the power of the personal brand in video. So I love what you're doing, the tools, the support you give us. It's awesome.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
That was a great testimonial. I could just
Please do.
put out there, right?
This testimonial is approved by Vinnie Potestivo. So
Vinny, tell us to the listener who hasn't met you yet, let's walk through memory lane and share a little bit about your origin story, where you come from. And I mean, we mentioned, like, when we were in the green room, you're talking about recording or editing with two VCRs. Now,
oh
people who
yeah.
haven't heard of what a VCR is, it's a video cassette player. If you don't know what a video cassette is, there's we'll have a glossary of
Yeah,
information
right.
in the show notes, so you know exactly what we're talking about. But that was really amazing. Like, tell us how that even came up.
Oh yeah, cool. Well, look, I was born in 77, the beginning of the advent of media and content, the crossing of media and content,
Mhm.
meaning if media is the platform that we're watching it, feature films or television content are the shows, the films, the characters. So in the early 80s, I'm seeing movies get turned into TV shows get turned into movies.
Yeah,
The boom of the talk show comes out in the 80s. MTV comes out, in 81, which I didn't connect with because I rock and roll wasn't the music that I was brought up listening to. So like
sure.
to me, it was a little too much rock and roll. My gosh, I sound so persnickety saying that. By the way, long story short, I was at MTV for 10 years, from 98 to '07, and I got to create and be part of the team that brought reality TV as we know it to the network with the Osbournes and Punk'd and Newlyweds and Wildin' Out and Run's House and The Hills and Laguna Beach. And, I want to talk all about how innovation and opportunities and errors led to all of those shows, by the way,
Yeah.
because what I learned from being perched at MTV, what I learned from by having access to a location that was so pivotal to an
Mhm.
audience that every creator had to pass through MTV to get to that youth audience. Diddy, Beyonce, Britney Spears, Mandy Moore, Jessica Simpson, Ashton. I can go into canon. I can go on and on about
Yeah.
these people who I now relate to more than ever. I feel like I am a solo creator. I am an
Mhm.
innovator. I'm creating podcast episodes and content no one's asking for. I have to put it
Mhm.
out in the world and support it and hope that I'm connected to my audience and that it serves them. And I've
Yeah.
never felt more connected to that celebrity brand that I've been so exposed to because I've been so fearful of losing
Mhm.
control over my own identity, my own
Yeah.
brand. And what we can do as independent creators now is exponential. But again, I grew up in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Content, cable television happens, CNN gets added, Fox News gets added. Fox News, I hear, is in New York.
Yeah.
I want to be on TV. I go to Blockbuster every week. That VHS tape for me was the easiest way to get onto TV, by the way. It was on VHS. So if I can get my
Yeah.
hands on a camcorder and record myself, usually doing a tour. I was very involved in my church, and I was very much about covering stories that youth groups were doing. And then I found an opportunity to be an intern at the Staten Island Basic Access Channel, where I learned I learned about video processing. I learned about
Hmm.
video storage. I learned about converting tape to digital.
Oh yeah.
Then I go to school from 95 to 95, 99, where Napster and the internet explodes with innovative ways to, so it's all about moving content,
Mm,
and it's that sort of fascination of that propelled me. And ultimately, it led to an opportunity, as I said, at MTV, uh, as I would say, a cable network back then. And it wasn't on my radar, but it was the closest I could get to Broadway. That was my goal, Broadway, Times
yeah.
Square in New York. And there they were. So I thought, this is my opportunity. This is my step in. So
That's so
a
cool.
unique way, but
I mean, I hear a lot of it was being in the space or being in a location where that
yeah,
is promoted. Like the same years that you were growing up in the US, I was in Saudi Arabia. We only have two channels on the television that would start from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. That was it. The
wow.
rest of the time was just colored bars, so
Wow. Yeah.
VHS was
Was it
something.
local programming or
It was
programming
local
from
programming,
global?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We didn't they hadn't introduced global programming. And that, I think, towards the end when I would moved out is when they had these giant dish antennas they would
Yep.
put on the rooftops.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, they have 100 channels. Right? That was
Were
mind
you
blowing.
aware of it growing up? Were you aware that the content you were watching was like that there was other content outside of what you were watching? Like what was that like as a
It was because I came to the US in 85 and 89.
oh
So I
yeah,
had
informative.
like some exposure to the content, but I didn't see it as content. I was like, oh, this is movies and films, right?
Yeah.
They played Knight Rider and MacGyver back in the back in,
Oh yeah.
back in
Yeah,
Saudi,
I know that time. It
growing
sounds like
up.
the
And
Twilight Zone was probably part of that package too.
no, Zone was way too out
Oh,
of,
risk. Oh
because
yeah.
they're censors, like they're censoring
Okay.
content there.
Oh, that's
So
right. That's right. That's right. Oh
only
yeah, of course.
content
Wow.
that's sci-fi related, or that's
But you're
like,
aware of that even then. That's powerful.
yeah. And so I mean, it's really cool how our surroundings is what enables us to get into the places that you would not have imagined. um but let's keep going. I mean,
Yeah, I knew. You know why? Can I tell you? There's something in
yeah,
my
of
life
course.
that happened there. Uh, someone in my life told me that I wasn't talented, and that the only way I would ever possibly be able to break into the industry, because I knew no one that even knew anyone that
Mhm.
worked. Even though I'm from Staten Island,
Yeah.
so close, but such a little bubble, and such a special little bubble that is. That person told me that it would need to be luck, and that I would literally need to be found on a corner where some casting director. So this idea of needing to be prepared, needing to be someplace other than where I am now to make
Mhm.
something happen, that ideation of where I go to find opportunity has propelled my entire career.
Mm.
Um, Long story short, I created a database in college of talent. I was good at Excel. I took out an ad. I said, I'm creating if you want on air opportunities, send me your headshots and I'll email you opportunities. And I would
Mm.
sort of look at this magazine called Backstage. I would scan in copies and send it to
Mm.
people. And one of the ads in Backstage says, casting director at MTV, meet us on Wednesday at 10 a.m. We're doing a shoot with Whitney Houston. Come dressed as are ready for camera. And I was like, you got 45th and Broadway. That's a corner. Like you have
Yeah.
to. You have
It's
to be
literally a
on the
corner.
corner for the cast. So I'm like, this is okay. I'll take this opportunity with me. And
Yeah,
I went there, by the way, and I didn't get to ask Whitney Houston the question. I did
sure.
get selected to ask a question. The question was to Whitney, what was it like recording with Mariah Carey on the Prince of Egypt soundtrack? And when the producer told her my question, I heard her and I saw her. I saw Whitney go, I'm not answering that question. I was like, no, like my TV dreams are being crushed. And because of that, I turned to the casting director and I said, thanks for this opportunity. What an experience. Like
Mm,
this, what an awesome day. I have a database of like 700 models, actors from like the tri-state area.
yeah.
If I can ever help you connect to talent, non-union talent that are looking for opportunities, please let me know. And he says, okay, Vin. So we're shooting a very Busta Christmas special tomorrow. Do you think you can get us 15 people? And I was like, yes.
Yes.
Gladly went back to college. Cast the people that I know because I know they would
Mm,
perform for themselves and for me. That
yeah,
showing up and
yeah,
performing is how the casting director. It's not just filling the slot; it's how that slot performs that ultimately casting is held responsible to.
yeah.
And that's how my 10-year career at MTV
That's
started. And
amazing.
and it was because someone told me I had the power to change my story. And then I went there with that in mind. And then look at
Yeah,
what we did with reality TV.
I know.
Ashton Kutcher didn't want to be seen as just an actor model who could front movies. He wanted to prove that he was capable of creating TV shows,
Hmm.
franchises that would change pop culture. And that's exactly what that he did with Punked. And we got to be a part of that, which is scarring,
Vinny, oh
but
my
fun.
God. There's,
that's for the after show. We'll talk about
I
those
know, right? That's
punk
for the
stories for
after
the
show. I
after
mean,
show.
holy smokes. Like that in itself just shows that, hey, if you take that one thread and just run with it,
Yeah.
you can go so far. But the problem is, like most of the creators, they're just stuck in their minds. Like, oh my God, is this going to work? Is it going to work? No, it's only going to work if you take an action on it, right? If you don't take an action, if you're just thinking about, okay, how's it going to work? What do I got to do? I like to tell this small story from the beginning of 2020. My cousin was like, hey, I'm working on the garden. And I was like, oh, I want to do a garden. 3 weeks later, he comes back. It's like, hey, I've got potatoes. I've got all these vegetables in my garden. I was like, wait, what did you do? Because I hadn't started mine. He's like, well, I started mine and I planted the seeds. I'm like, oh crap, I've been just thinking about what plants to put, not starting anything.
Yeah. But by the way, I can connect that to social scrolling also. I'm
There you
like,
go.
what do you mean you haven't heard from me on LinkedIn in like a week? I'm on LinkedIn every single day, probably. I don't
Uh-huh.
even want to know how much time I spend because I love connecting with people on
Mm,
LinkedIn. Also, I could consume content. When I am in consumption mode, that's the same
yeah,
thing. I'm paralysis, right? It's like
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
literally like, I gotta say this. I wouldn't do what I did for a living if I didn't love being in the audience of great people. And my
Amen.
whole career is surrounding myself with that opportunity to have friends in show business. I wanted that so bad. Everyone says it's not about show friends, it's show business. And I was like, I'm gonna change that. I don't want that. No, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna.
Because
And shows are fleeting, contracts are come to an end, every beginning has every cycle. MTV News isn't even around anymore. So
right, it's all
sad,
gone.
by the way, so sad. um uh but the need for MTV News isn't there because the youth culture has control of it, has an
Yes, they
ability
do.
to control their voice and show up and represent themselves.
Yeah.
And again, innovation in video. And
It's so true. And one of the things that you mentioned, right? MTV was the gatekeeper that everybody talked about. You
mhm,
got to fake it till you make it kind of mentality.
for sure.
But we don't have that anymore. Like
No.
you can see TikTok creating creators, you can see YouTube, you can see all of these platforms giving them an open access to literally anybody.
Yeah,
It's
I
mind
gotta be
blowing.
honest because I worked on some of the seasons of Housewives also. So up
Mhm.
until like 2010, let's say maybe fake it till you make it. After 2010, after maybe during and post Obama era, a lot of what happens in media contra supports what's happening in politics. So when things are in the liberal media going well, shows tend to have a little bit more audaciousness. So like when everyone was so happy that Obama was in office, the
Yeah.
housewives were ferocious. And then when things got a little turbulent in the liberal media because of Trump being there, everyone calms down. So it's an
Mm,
interesting relationship that
that's
they have
interesting.
there. That just to point out in the seasonality of development and tapping into part of like how the public will be creating content versus how we as creators can create content. And
Yeah.
that's where I think having true values, goals, like locking into a direction as opposed to a path
Yeah.
is, especially if time is included in that path, like time, now that people don't hear things in sequence that we put them out, and the linearity of, you don't
Yeah.
have to rush home at 3:30 in the afternoon to watch Total Request Live anymore to hear what's going on in pop culture.
Yeah.
The benefit to that back then was that people made decisions based on access to that live audience between 3:30 and 4. So MTV became pivotal because
Mm.
it had the attention of the youth culture, and decisions were made. I mean, Diddy
And
popping by the studio, Mariah bringing ice cream for the audience, like like there people can show up in crazy, fun, passionate ways. What I love now, though, about maybe some more of the people who are listening to this than some of the people I've been talking about is me, you, and the audience have more in common, and more probably media in our back pockets that we own than
yeah.
they do. And I know this for a fact. And as all these platforms grow, platforms will need catalogs to buy and stars to
Hmm.
make. So MTV needed stars, Bravo needs its stars, YouTube needs its stars,
Hmm.
Threads will need its stars, Blue
Yes,
Sky, if you're on Blue Sky, that will need it. TikTok proves it, right? Like this, if
it does.
TikTok needed its stars, it was a star making machine,
Yeah.
because it needs its
Yeah.
stars. I know this for a fact. Platforms need people to amplify and celebrate because people follow people. And
Because
again,
those.
how we show up,
Yeah.
we now don't have to go through those gates of people who are not like us, who do
Yeah.
not connect to us or understand us, to approve our ability to get content out there.
But
That's
that's so.
powerful.
That is absolutely powerful. And what's interesting is that those platforms are simply frameworks. It's an empty building.
Mhm,
A building comes alive when people show up, right? You can put on a beautiful event, and you could see probably photos, but where they've got this beautiful looking chairs and flowers, but it still looks dead without people.
mhm,
Oh, that's what you can do. You got to put people in it. So
mhm.
power to the people,
Good power to the people.
power
That's
to
what
the
kind
creators.
of like what frustrates me right now. I mean, not to put a timestamp on this, but as we're recording this in the summer, and the strike is happening, and the unions in Hollywood has come to a screeching halt, to call this era that we're in right now the creator
Mm.
economy, I gotta be honest, that's some gaslighting weird. That's like we want to pay creators some content, but we need an excuse. Look, I come from reality TV, where most of my shows, and I'm not offended by this, but most of my shows are on people's guilty pleasure lists. Like I wasn't even on, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I love that show, Vin. It's on my guilty pleasure list. The Hills, of course I watched it. It's guilty pleasure. I'm like, why is it got millionaire? Why do these got to be guilty pleasure shows? But um, uh, so again, but the power we have in how we up. Podcasting has been fun because it's a real focus on storytelling. But one
It
thing I
is.
learned about the power of video and podcasting. Um, so I have a podcast. It's called I Have a Podcast, and I talk to my friends and the people I literally grew up with 25 years ago in this industry. So Jamie Lynn Sigler and I were talking, and her quality. I mean, she's obviously she played Meadow on The Sopranos, and she's in TV shows and films, and
Yeah.
she's a pretty big celebrity in the podcasting space. But her 4K camera, the way she showed up, the way she just looked like a star, and I was like, James, you're just like, we're just podcasting, but you look like $1 billion. And she's like, it's just
Hmm.
the camera and some lighting. And I was like, oh, I'm making the decision to put myself in 720 or 60 back then. I don't
Yeah,
even want
yeah,
to talk about it. I'm making the decision to put myself in a ratio where I know it's already outdated, let alone
yeah, yeah.
and that's where I was fascinated in, in what you're doing and how you're helping the people who are creating content that we own, that we're
That you're
leveraging
on it.
right
Yeah.
now on social media. I can't wait
Amen.
for Web3 to really hit. I can't wait for us to step away from going online and move towards going on chain and really embracing the opportunity of collaboration. Also, I also think that's where X.com kind of genius, and no one sees it yet,
That's
but like
that's kind of where
that's
it's going
right,
for sure. I mean,
collaboration. It's all about collaboration. It's
it
all about
is. And
our combined knowledge. Otherwise, it's AI predicting what we should know next. And that's
mm,
I didn't sign up for that version. That's
no,
mad.
no, because AI is still dependent on what happened in the past,
Mhm.
not what we're creating in the future. And it's our mind's ability to create the future, not what was done in the past.
Yeah,
Okay.
amen for that. Absolutely.
All
Oh
right.
yeah,
Let's take a quick break. And then when we get back, you're going to share 3 hacks to take away for the superpreneurs listening here. Hold on.
got it.
Hold on. And we'll be right back. Guys, welcome back. We've been talking with Vinnie Potestivo. He is amazing. He's done some fabulous things, brought together some really amazing talent. I mean, he brought in 15 people for a show. The next day, this casting producer was putting together. Check out the
Yeah.
story earlier in the episode. But he's got 3 hacks to take away for you guys. So, Vinny, you're on, brother.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. All right. So 3 hacks. One is let's start with the ending, and I want to end on generosity. Right.
Mm,
I had to come up with a system of generosity when I meet people that I'm meeting for the first time, especially knowing that content creation is a solid form of networking and it shows up in SEO and in social, and it proves a relationship and it proves a conversation and it connects us in a unique way and it creates data points
yeah.
that otherwise couldn't be found. So I had to focus at the end, and generosity for me comes up. As I mentioned, have a podcast, but for the people who I'm not able to have on my as guests, I have a podcast.com is a launch pad for new podcasters. Like I created that platform, an easy
Mm,
way to onboard people. I have a podcast.com/interview is the literal form. If you were hearing this deep in the episode, I trust y'all in Junaid's world to share your information. I create an article that's posted on hundreds of blogs that are pulling from my blog RSS thanks to Google News. But I had to create a system of generosity so that I could be, I want to say multiplicative,
mhm. Amplify.
fictitious. I want to make some new word up. Something that just really empowered you was at your time, your place, and it's I'm excited because of the direction that that's going in, and that generosity, that idea of having a place to celebrate people was
Mhm,
how I built I have a podcast.com. And then I was like, why aren't my episodes on it? Because it's a called I have a podcast.com. And
mhm.
and here's a great example of how generosity and look, by default I'm a people person, but I've learned to cope with that. I have great boundaries, and I've been in therapy a very long time, to say this: I love being a people pleaser. It's also one of my weaknesses. If I can build a way to automate and amplify my gratitude for meeting people and celebrating who they are, then so gratitude for me was where I wanted new conversations to sort of end before they're someplace else. So that system of gratitude was important for me, and I've been able to leverage that system of gratitude into a TV show, a radio show, a podcast. LinkedIn presents podcast on the LinkedIn Podcast Academy Network. It's been a really cool opportunity, and again, I call it I have a podcast because it's very clunky. So I want to start with generosity, and that's one hack that helps me show up in conversations that I'm not a part of, because I'm providing content highlighting people, asking them for quotes that I'm
Yeah.
supporting, that I now get to be part of the conversation or the movement or community. And that's one hack is gratitude. The second
Amazing.
hack is sharing. Is that should I just keep going or?
Oh yeah, keep going.
Yeah, cool. Okay. The
Give me
second
more
hack I
tips.
want hack is sharing or making shareable content. So I'll keep it really simple because we know this one is one of my favorite ones to do.
Mm-hmm.
Jiffy, where you make GIFs on Giphy or GIFs. I hate this word. GIFs, whichever you believe is how you say
Mm-hmm.
it. By creating stickers, by having an account on giphy.com, which is free for anyone to go to create a
Yeah.
free account. It allows you to create branded content, visual content, words, energy, artistic, creative content that allows people to discover you if they don't know you through words. So if you type in podcaster and GIF search on Instagram, you'll find me, or LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
or if you type in Podmatch, you'll find me and Junaid, and you'll find a bunch of other ways that we've sort of organized it.
Yeah.
But making shareable content. Now, I'm not talking about posts that are shareable. I'm talking about specifically stickers and GIFs that are assets that people are using when they are creating content, original content. Um, the the benefit of focusing on that shareable form of content is
Mm-hmm.
more and more platforms are pulling from it. And just this weekend, I got hit up by a friend who was watching something on TikTok where this person used an AI app to create videos. And because the AI app is pulling GIFs from
Mm-hmm.
GIFs from Jiffy.com, a specific image, a GIF of me holding a LinkedIn cup that pops up and down is in their video. And I actually reached
Yeah.
out to the AI for a video team, and I was like, I'm the guy. I'm like the LinkedIn guy, and they were like, that's weird. And I
They're
said, yeah,
like,
but
we're
if
just trying to
AI don't,
promote our app over
yeah,
here.
they're like, we're just trying. So I said this. I said, look, can you tag me in TikTok because I'm never on TikTok in any
Yeah.
visibility. Good. And look, if AI isn't used to bring us together, it's going to be used to rip us apart. So, like, what a weird, strange way, fellow creator, to meet
Uh-huh.
you, and it's nice to say hi and give me a freaking tag. So that comes from share,
It
and
does.
again, sharing sticker. I'm talking about stickers and stories, gifs, memes. We'll see them. They come up in keyboards on our iPhones, on
Mm-hmm.
iOS. They come up in platforms like Facebook and TikTok that are native to the platform. Gratitude, sharing, and you know what? I guess my third hack, because I have a funny relationship with consistency, is sustainability over consistency,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like, so my formula for sustainability would be like consistency times grace.
Mm.
That sounds real good to me, by the way.
It does.
Let me have
I
enough space to focus on the impact, focus
mm,
on focus on the thought, because I want to be a thought leader as
yes.
opposed to making a daily contribution
Mm-hmm.
to space of social media. But that sustainability piece, the focus of sustainability, um, it helps me focus on my 5 brand pillars. So I always stay on topic. As you've heard, I can go quite off topic and throw in way too many facts to the conversation. Having 5 brand pillars that I've leaned on for a decade has helped me. I'll tell you this, has helped me be me. And when people used to tell me, Vinny, lean into being you, lean into yourself, like you're so unique, just be you. Well, unfortunately, y'all are getting the Vinny 100 that I finally have tapped into, and I love it. And there's flow that
Yeah.
comes with that, and flow comes with focus and an unconsciousness to it too. So I'm like, I can be, and that's a wonderful place to be as a creator, and we have control again
Yeah.
over a lot of how we can show up, with gratitude always, sustainably, because I want to be that source, as I have been for 25 years, of finding new talent, celebrating new talent. Yo, new conversations are hard to get started because the old ones
Oh
have
my God.
so
It's the
much
hardest, right?
data, you know?
That's why
So,
they have like the literally the first speech somebody does at Toastmasters is called icebreakers.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah,
gotta break the ice.
you do.
So, Vinny, thank you so much for your hacks. Gratitude, sharing, sustainability are the 3 hacks that you shared, and thank you so much. Those were amazing. There's so much to talk. There's so much to uncover, and you've given us a really good chunk of your day, day to share your wisdom, share all the stuff that you've come along with. This last section of the episode, I call it the rapid fire questions or
Okay.
flash fire. I don't. I need to come up with a name for it, Vinny.
All
Maybe
right.
you can help us.
Sure.
All right.
Is that the
The
first question? Well, let's make that the last question, and maybe we'll have.
We'll make the last question. All right, sweet. First question is, what is the one hobby that you wish you got into?
Photography.
Ooh.
Yeah, photography, video. There's something about that the eye and the construct of a scene and the framing of it that is unfortunately lost on me because I worked with great people who had that skill set, so I didn't
Mhm.
need to
Yeah.
because it wasn't necessarily required of me. But photography, and maybe with that comes like a slash design.
Flash design.
In this loud world of content that we live in,
Yeah.
we used to talk about louder characters. You know, is their voice going to get heard? So you get these Patty Stinger, millionaire matchmaker-esque loud characters to break through the noise. Solid design, sustainable content, consistent message is going to outperform all of that from a mental health perspective too.
I love that, man. That's really beautiful. Okay, next question. What did you want to be when you were a child?
Well, sure, an astronaut until probably like 83 or 84 when
The
we were
Columbia?
in school. Yeah, when we were in school and that happened. I had my eye on TV. You know what? My favorite Muppet in the Muppet Show was Scooter. He was the stage manager. He wasn't Kermit. I never wanted to be necessarily in front of the camera or the star of a film. I was always okay if I happened to be in something. I always thought that would kind of be fun and
Yeah.
interesting to do. And if you, by the way, watched the Thomas Crown Affair or the Irishman, I'm in both of them.
Nice.
So, and also shout out to IMDb for the best credits of my career. But yeah, I think that yeah. Final answer.
We'll have to grab the screen grabs from those 2 movies you
Oh,
mentioned.
by the way, the screen grabs. I was on a billboard in Times Square, and my first supporting role as a off camera, on camera dancer in the Thomas Crown Affair. I'll send it to you. It's awesome. That's my next. I'm in this like weird phase on LinkedIn where I'm going through archival content and just sort of like picking the small pieces and expanding on the stories as you see. And
Yeah.
I just did one with John Oliver.
That was a good one.
So he's a Vinnie Potestivo, like just the way he says my name.
This is before his last week tonight.
Yeah. This is like back on his OG The Daily Show segment.
OG Daily Show, that's right.
Yeah, neat.
All right, next question. What is your favorite movie or TV show?
Ooh,
it's a hard one for me.
Yeah. Favorite movie or TV show? So if I'm gonna go nostalgia, I'm gonna go and I'm looking at like there's 2 shows I watched over obsessively, which was The Never Ending Story.
Oh my God. Right,
which I think a lot of us like really connected with, and then Swiss Family Robinson. So weird. I can't believe I could come up with such better answers. I could be like The Truman Show, and it inspired me to be a producer. But I'm like. But also my favorite, I loved silliness. I loved silly on TV. God rest his soul, but I loved Paul Rubens, who played Pee-wee Herman, and like Pee-wee's Playhouse was like one of my favorite shows on TV. The silliness of it allowed me to connect with people in a way that, and I'm a very creative communicator, and again, that's why I think I like what I like. And so I'm going to keep this rapid, but sorry.
I love it.
No, Maro. So wait, so my answers are Pee-wee's Playhouse and Swiss Family Robinson. It's the worst. I watch a lot of game shows too.
I think they're really good because it's gonna answer It's gonna help us answer the next question. Maybe it
Okay.
might change your answer. I don't know. Let's
Okay.
see.
Okay.
What movie would you choose if you got to play a character in it?
Oh yeah, any movie? Well, this is a weird. Yeah. I want to say like Aladdin.
Wait,
I
what?
want to be like
Who?
a Disney prince or something like that.
No,
I
no.
wouldn't
Who
want
do
to
you
be
want to be in Aladdin?
Aladdin.
Okay.
Why? You
No, I love it because my uncle he used to collect Barbie dolls. He worked at Toys R Us. Um, he he called me the Aladdin doll for Barbie. I'm like, I don't
Oh,
know if Barbie ever made a Ken doll.
was there like a limited
I don't
edition
think
or
there
something
was.
like that?
I don't know. But like, hey,
Oh,
you're
sure.
Aladdin. I'm like, okay, sure.
Well,
I probably didn't have a beard back then.
I like the nature of Aladdin. I like he's
He's
got to
trying to
make it,
fit in,
yeah,
right?
and like love is his guide, and he's got friends with strange, unique,
Powers.
yeah, like, and he's in this weird world that he kind of, I can relate to being. Look, who can't relate to being the underdog, and
Yeah.
also I would want to be Aladdin because like Jasmine is by far one of the most superior Disney
Come on.
princesses out there, and I can't be Jasmine because that's just. I just don't like her songs as much as I like Aladdin's, and that's the only reason why. So I'll say that.
Yeah, I don't
It would be
remember any of her
something.
songs. I remember
Yeah.
Aladdin's songs much better. All right. You got two more questions.
All right.
Second one,
Thanks.
who is your favorite superhero?
Favorite superhero. So like I'm obviously gonna probably end up on Wonder Woman. That Wonder Woman is a show that I grew up watching,
Mm,
and the lasso of truth and everything about that world I loved. Yeah, and she didn't have to get bit by a spider, or she, like all those other horrible things that happened. As I could look as a kid,
well,
I went through some trauma, but that trauma gave me superpowers, and I can relate to. Unfortunately, I can't relate to Spider-Man because he lost someone in his
but
life. I was lucky
Batman.
as a child. Batman also,
Mm,
right? I didn't lose someone in my life young that I didn't have that loss. I had
yeah,
other things, but I couldn't relate to that.
yeah.
And so yeah.
I love it, man. I was gonna say, um, Wonder Woman was only possible because of who her mom and dad were, right?
Hmm.
So there's so much power in where we come from.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I'm always looking at that. I'm like, okay, where like I'm always looking at the history of things and how things started. I mean, I'm a huge nerd when it comes to superhero and it's pretty awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
I've
Wait,
got
I never thought about that. So if her dad is
got,
Zeus,
got Iron Man
ooh,
right here,
yeah.
right? All of these characters back here. Yeah, Zeus. I think Zeus was the dad,
It's
so
her
she's like
dad.
half sisters to Hercules
Yeah, that's what I
almost.
just did. So by the way, Hercules. Okay, so then if I don't get Aladdin, then Hercules would
There
be.
you go.
But I love those. That was a special era of Disney
It
magic
is an
musicals in the late '90s and
amen.
that era of time. So,
Our last
and the
question.
boy's voice can be sweet, back then. So anyway,
Yeah, played by a girl.
yeah.
If you were a board game, what would it be?
Sorry,
Sorry.
sorry.
Dude, okay, what if you made a game called Sorry Not Sorry?
That's exactly what I'm thinking about. That's exactly where my brain went on that one.
Right?
It's all about like, but I would be like, it would be like life lessons. Like, sorry you didn't get what you wanted because we had a better plan for you. You
Yeah.
know, sorry it didn't work out. Sorry you lost everything that you had because you needed to clear space so you could be exponential. This
Yeah.
idea of maybe I would spin it in a way of adversity because I was not aware of that word, did not
Mm-hmm.
understand the power of
Mm-hmm.
adversity. Once you give me a word, I can and something exists, then I begin to wrap my head around it. I wish
Yeah.
someone told me that there was a special power in recovering I just thought it was recovering, and
Yeah.
that was a do or die, sort of situation. So all that being said, sorry, probably also a little bit of shoots and ladders, but I like the
There it
concept.
is. There's the game. We
Yeah.
combine sorry, call it sorry, not sorry, and then it's shoots and ladders.
Yeah. That's the sequel. Yeah, that's
The
the
sequel.
that's the sequel. That's the card game version of it. I love that answer.
Vinny, thank you so much
Fun.
for your time. This was so much fun, man. I appreciate you. And I know you talk a huge about branding, and you've built your brand, the VPE brand.
Mhm.
Where can our listeners find you?
Oh yeah, I appreciate that. ihaveapodcast.com is the place to come to connect. Whether you have a podcast, want to be on podcasts, or are looking how to leverage podcast in what you're doing, I have a fascination for podcasts because we own them. Right.
Mhm.
I come from TV where a couple of people own those TV companies. We are exponential in this booming world of podcasts. Junaid, this episode is what makes the podcast industry get bigger. And
Yep.
Junaid owns it, by the way. How could I not show up for that? So I would say ihaveapodcast.com. And if you're listening to this podcast after this, if not another one of these episodes, hop over to I Have a Podcast. If you're on Apple, the signal that shoots to Apple is that people who listen to this podcast also listen to I Have a Podcast, and Junaid and I might have an opportunity for some extra discoverability
Yes.
if the platform sees it. So
I
those
love
are
it.
two good places. Thanks.
Thank you, Vinny. We'll
Appreciate you,
catch you
bud.
in the next episode, brother.